All right, here's a topic I don't think I've covered, and if I have, it's always good information to bear repeating. So we're setting up the servo on Alistair's transmission, and Alistair is getting what is the Sonax servo, which is the best replacement servo for the stock Grand National servo. The Grand National servo, which is this one right here, is a very good servo. It works really well, and I generally don't upgrade them unless we're going to dual feed. That's usually when we get the upgrade. That's just my opinion. I mean, you can upgrade it sooner if you want to. The big thing about the Sonax servo versus the Grand National servo or any other servo for the 204R, that's a 204R servo, not a 200C servo, is that it is a two-piece servo. Okay? This is one way you can set it up, and this is literally a two-piece servo. There's one piece, and there's the cover. It's a two-piece servo. Here's the Grand National servo, and the Grand National servo is a three-piece servo. Okay, so what does that mean? Why do we care about that? Well, the servo has an apply side and it has a release side. And the way the 204R is, if you look at the fluid schematic, when the second gear shift happens, the oil applies the servo. When the 2-3 shift happens, the applying oil does not go away. Oil will apply on the other side of the servo, and we'll have to knock it off with help from the springs. Common. The Sonax servo and the 200C servo, which has been found in a lot of 204Rs, is a two-piece servo. So that means when the servo knocks off, if it knocks off, it's very hard for the band to get burnt up. In extreme cases where the servo clearance is too tight, with band clearance, same thing, that can happen. But this servo it's a better design, so that's why we upgrade. The stock BRF servo is the biggest servo from a 204R. Is an excellent servo. You just pay attention to your clearances, and clearances, they're all over the map. And I'm just going to talk in generalities. Some people have a measurement they do under, say, snap ring, and they stick a feeler gauge in there and they have a number. Some people's number is 100,000, some people's number is 30,000. Some people don't have a number. Some people stick shims in there and they shim it until it's bound up, until this is bound up, and then they take one shim out until it's free. I think that was Bruce Toll who used to talk about that on the forum back in the day. And some of us just use other numbers, and then that's builder preference. But the Sonax servo is an expensive piece. It's gone up just like everything else, but it's a worthwhile investment, and it's not a consumable. As far as the seals, they do sell seal kits. If you have a stock transmission or any transmission that has a band or drum that's been compromised, the servo is probably not going to fix it. And here's what we're talking about on these drums is another thing in these transmissions that is drying up. One of these days we're going to run out of drums. Okay, so this particular drum, which was Bill's, if I ran my finger across it, I can feel a groove. So this part of it is higher and that part of it's higher, and it's actually concave and it's worn. So this guy needs to be resurfaced. A good servo won't fix that. It won't help it. Okay, so try and get it right from the word go. And then there's all kinds of things you can play around with. You can play around with the springs. You can add them, you can delete them, you can do different size springs, etc., etc. Again, that's all builder preference. And you can come up with the best calibration good for you. And it is possible now to dual feed one of these units without bind up. I experienced that several years ago, and I think it was Dave Huzik who taught me that, who showed me how that worked. And since then I've learned, as I've gotten a little bit more knowledgeable, I've learned things to do to basically it's gone. There's basically no 2-3 bind up. So that used to be a thing of the past. That's a thing of the past. So good servo, Sonax servo, excellent servo. Stevie says if you're going for a dual feed, do it. If you're staying with the stock transmission with a mild build, not necessary. And that's just my opinion. And then these things are, I haven't looked at them recently, but I'm sure they're past $200 now. They used to be $100 and something. They're probably past $200, but they're still available. So here's a good servo, and that's my thoughts on it.